Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good day for wherever you're joining us in the world. My name is George Smith, bringing you the Porsche Masters Cup action here in Japan for round 4. This, of course, is the Pro Split. And joining me in the box, the dream team that started things off. We've kind of been mixed up for the last couple of weeks, but Joshua Devonshire joining me in the box. Joshua, you all good to go this week?
No, absolutely, just absolutely so happy to be back, absolutely, and I've missed you, George, not gonna lie. But no,
I've missed you too, Josh. I've missed you too. It's good to be back here, and of course, we had a little technical running in to start things off, but the broadcast is going live now. Normally we come in towards the end of practice, don't we? And now we're kicking things off with qualifying.
no, absolutely, not too far behind schedule, though. We are 4 minutes into quali at the moment on board with Stefan van Aken. In the GT, well, actually, no, these are the GT4s out first. Same qualifying format as we've seen in the past few weeks. GT4s out first, then the Cup cars, then the GT3s, and it seems like Aken's doing a pretty darn good job out there.
Correct. As he comes out of Spoon, makes his way down the back stretch. This will be the first time we see coming out for the GT4s. If Van Aken manages to get it to the line without invalidating that lap, of course. But so far, so good. In through 130R, and for the GT4s, they've only got 10 minutes to set a quali lap at this point in the race.
No, absolutely, and slowing right down for the chicane, and fast chicane and coming around the final turn now to complete a lap, and I think we're about to see the first of the GT4s get a time on the board, and we're just about to cross the line now, and I believe that is... Yeah, Stefan van Aken, provisional pole with a 2:13.5, and it's going to be interesting to see. That's quickly beaten by Baranowski with a 2:13 dead, so time's far from finalized.
Time's far from finalized. We've seen the track conditions improve throughout the duration of qualifying. Of course, making things easier for the Cup cars and the GT3s when they get round. These GT4s setting the pace, and of course also adding a little bit of grip onto the race circuit. We see the track conditions 23 degrees, track indicator that it's at fast, and we've got a little bit of sunshine coming through the clouds as we go to 6:05 p.m. Baranowski still stays at the top in pole. Andrew Pike coming over the line 0.003 of a second behind, so 2:13.083 coming out for Baranowski, and then Pike coming in and doing a 2:13.086. Van Aken wasn't the slowest car coming out in the GT4s. We see Gleason on the board, Vondra on the board, and Jacobson also just rounding out their first quali lap. 4 minutes to go. I mean, these lap times are quite long when you are at Suzuka. It's a long circuit, and 10 minutes to try and get a time down is quite difficult as it is, without the added pressure of knowing that you are setting yourself up for a 75-minute race here. So I think all the drivers will have that in mind, but also know that there's not too much time to play with here. You've got to kind of get your out lap done. You've got to get a decent banker lap in, and then look to improve from there.
No, absolutely, and it's worth watching out for in qualifying and the race actually for turns 8 and 9 with the Degner section of the track. It's very easy to run the car a little bit wide and pick up an invalidation or even track limits during the race. And obviously 130R is another big one to watch out for the exact same reason. So definitely a very challenging track. First sector especially, if you come offline in the first sector, it's very easy to start losing time. That's very difficult to get back. So Baranowski, current provisional pole sitter, about to complete another lap. He is currently up on his delta. He will improve. That's a 2 minutes 12.429. I saw my mistake. Sorry for catching you out there. That was Charisma who beat Baranowski there with the 429. Andy Boardman has just got even faster still though with a 218.8.
At 211.808 coming out for Andy Boardman there, the Greased Weasel racing number 69, just showing the pace and coming out and delivering with style as he makes his way through Snake, or the S's, whichever you feel like calling it.
It's such a complex piece of track, as I was just saying there. It's just, if you come offline, it's so difficult to kind of recover that time. But he's absolutely nailed it, running the car just on the curb on the outside, heading towards Degner. And this is where I was just on about. It's so easy to run a bit too wide in invalid track limits. You hit the curb on the inside and just run a little wide, and he has kept that go. Actually, no, that wasn't invalidation, so I think we're going to be seeing a fair bit of that.
So all our GT4s stacking up on the timing sheet, as you can see on the left side, the little right corner of their number with the little blue sort of triangle coming through it, just indicating that they are in the GT4s. And it's good to note that we have a mixture of splits within the GT4s. There wasn't enough GT4s to just make a pro entry here, so all the GT4s are entered across all the splits participate in this broadcasted stream. Try and get as many of the GT4s into the race as possible for whatever reason, just not the most popular class of racing when people have the option of going GT3s, or I suppose even the cup cars for a bit of a laugh.
No, absolutely. We need to show more GT4 love, I think, on here at RCI, because they're just so much fun. Like the racing is so much closer than you can get with the GT3s, and they're a lot more fun to drive than I think a lot of people give them credit for. So it's kind of good to see them all kind of bunched up together with the whole range of skills of drivers, and makes for some very diverse racing, I think. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it stacks up in terms of traffic as well with the GT3s and the cups, because obviously we are going to see cars lap each other at some point in the race. And Boardman's still another lap completed. Baranowski crossing the line, and Boardman's still like over half a second ahead. Sorry.
I mean, if you're looking at this qualifying sheet right now, kind of looks like how the race finished for the GT4s last week at Kyalami. Boardman taking home the victory, Kaisma taking home second place, and then Baranowski getting that third place on the podium. So good to see some consistency coming out from the three at the front, trying to get the same sort of results out here in Japan that they did in South Africa last week. And a little bit of a different weather condition as well. Qualifying was quite wet last week. The race was dry. Here so far, dry during quali. We see Matthew Kingston Lee going over the line as well. Not going to best their lap, but just sitting outside of those podium positions for the start, but locking down the second row of the grid in their class regardless.
No, absolutely. And Boardman will be looking to finish to get as good a quality as he can, obviously being the championship leader right now. Nico Quizma will be looking at making up some space as well, as will Baranowski. So in fact, the Andrew Pike in second place of the championship doesn't seem to be here. So Quizma and Baranowski will be looking to make up all of the lost ground, not even lost ground, but looking to make up all of the points that they can from this round to carry on for the championship.
Andrew Pike is here, Josh, sitting currently in fifth for the OTL Racing number 57. They snuck their way in there just as you were saying it.
Oh, I did that completely skipped all of the many screens I'm currently looking at. But yes, Andrew Pike in fifth, and I'm wondering if that's invalidations, because he is currently second place in the championship. So you are looking at him now. So not the most ideal start for fifth place, but definitely possible to make something happen.
Trying to see if they can just get a last lap in here, of course, starting before that 20-minute remaining mark means that GT4s out on the circuit are allowed to finish that lap up, see what they stack themselves out with. And we can really see on the track map that our the cup cars are out on the circuit. They're going to start preparing themselves for their quali session. So Andrew Pike down to the line now. Do they improve from fifth place? A little bit of weaving over the track, and unfortunately not going to be the time that they do. So we still see the likes of Joe Gleason also trying to improve their time. They've managed to get an extra lap in right at the end. Does jump up to sixth, does a 2:13.232. So that's good enough there. Mikael Sandstrom for the nearly on pace 8:99, the first of the cup cars to start going and setting their quali time. They've done their out lap, and this will be an onboard lap from a cup car perspective in through curves 1 and 2. There's a very tricky corner. I mean, it's oh, look at that, just wrestling with the back end of the cup car. Of course, no traction control to help out. And then through the S's, this is a critical part of your lap. You've got to keep the balance going between momentum as well as consistent apex hitting. Then at the top of the hill here, it's kind of off camber down to the left. You want to hug that inside apex, stretch it out wide before you throw it in for the long left-hander. That is the Dunlop curb, and the approach up to the Degners here, carrying a lot of momentum, and then just trusting yourself to throw it in, take a little bit of the curb. The Cup cars, a nice soft bouncy suspension model, allow you to go through the Degners 1 and 2 underneath the overpass, where of course the backstretch runs through the circuit. You make your way round to the hairpin. Out through the hairpin, hugging the inside apex once again, just trying to carry momentum to take yourself up for the run through to Spoon. A very long right-hander here. You're flat out on the accelerator pedal again, just hugging the apexes on the inside line, and then Spoon, which is just such a tricky corner. Very popular corner as well. People love this part of the circuit. It's iconic in the Cup cars. That weight transfer can be a lot of fun, can also be a lot of not fun when you get it wrong. But Mikkel Sandstrom not struggling with that, so just winding up into 6th gear as we hear the whine coming out from the Cup car before the chuck-in for 130R. Clip the inside apex, extend it out wide, make sure you don't run too wide and invalidate the lap. Throw down the anchors then for the final chicane. Take the inside apexes on each side, try and just stabilize the car, and then the final corner on the run down to the start-finish straight. The line quite far down here, so you kind of just get a little bit of a drag race effect coming down. And the 899 will go over the line, set a 204.983 to set things up. Gergo Panker immediately fires back, just 1/10 off the pace, but James Parker takes provisional pole, 204.356. Last week's race winner at Kyalami had a great battle out with James Noble, and we just, or Mike Noble, my bad. It's James Parker, Mike Noble, George. But the two of them just went amazingly through Kyalami, nose to tail, battles for days. Joe McCauley's back. He wasn't here last week, and it's good to see the number 18 back here. And of course, the hashtag blame Mike Jones there. So a little shout out to Mike Jones, as we always like to blame Mike Jones from the Racing Club International side. But Mike Noble goes pole at 204.008. There's going to be a party. Noble, McCauley, and Parker all in the same race. So hopefully we get a three-way battle.
Oh, absolutely! You know it. You know it's coming, and it's really awesome to see. As we have the top three of the cups in the championship just so tightly bunched together. Obviously, you have Mike Noble, John McCauley, Killian Ryan, with James Parker up there as well, and it's going to be so. This entire season, it's far from said and done. We're only so far through, 4 rounds in now, so it's going to be such an interesting battle to see how these guys actually get on during the race. But during qualifying, there's almost nothing in it between Noble and McCauley, just 6 thousandths of a second, or 600ths of it is thousandths of a second.
I'm such a Mike Noble fan. He's a disgusting driver, and he paints his cars in disgusting colors. This right now is an example of a Mike Noble livery for sure. And so transferring disgusting paint jobs into disgusting driving all the time. Disgusting in a good way when it comes to the driving. Disgusting in an awkward way, I think, when I refer to his paint jobs. But a nice teal blue rim set being applied up to what can only be described as a custard yellow base with a very funky looking Union Jack styled livery on that car. The bright blue, though, does accent the splitter cam when we do go to that viewpoint. So I must say, some good view. Look at that. I mean, that's just a stunning little border. But those are actually just the front ends of the car.
No, absolutely. It almost looks like it's gift wrapped. It almost looks like there should be a bow on top with the ribbon stretched around the car itself.
This is true. I didn't really look at it like that, but a nice little bow-like design coming out and a present for the viewers to admire out on the circuit. The FFS Racing 123 looking to go quicker here. Only 8 thousandths to find to get into the 203s, and they do it go 2/10 quicker than McCauley with a 203.825. I said he's a disgusting driver, and his lap time starting to just indicate he's got the pace. And I'm looking forward to those curves 1 and 2 in the race. I think when things start to weigh down on the tires, you're going to see some big oversteer moments. And if you're a drift fan like me, it's nice to see cars going a little bit sideways.
Speaking of sideways, John McCauley catching a slight bit of oversteer there coming through the S's, and kept it going, and he is currently still up on his delta as well, so he is within striking chance of actually challenging Noble for provisional pole for the Cup car class. And if anything, I think the performance we've just seen from Noble just goes to show just how good he actually is. In fact, how good the top three currently are, and everyone currently involved at the moment. James Parker, don't discount him either. He is currently 3/10 up on his time as well, coming through Spoon on the run down to 130R. And he is also in with a chance of improving on that P3.
Indeed is. As the sun starts to dip even more, we see a little bit of orange in the sky in some of the camera shots. Rci Predictions with a big oversteer moment coming through the exit of Degner 2. We'll get an onboard replay here. Good job to save it, but that's not going to save the lap time. That's going to be a big invalidation. Maybe a little bit, not even too much on the inside curb, just a little bit too much speed coming in, missed the inside apex, and then just drifts it out too wide. So that will invalidate that lap for the number 56, Rci Predictions, but currently still sitting sort of mid-pack in the cup cars that have managed to make it out to the circuit tonight.
Absolutely, Gergo Panker as well putting in a show with fourth place, 7/10 behind the race, 7/10 behind Mike Noble. So he's doing a little bit of drifting himself, it seems there, but he's done a pretty darn good job with it as well. And it's worth as well noticing, you were on about these snaps of oversteer. It's worth just reminding ourselves that these cars don't have traction control. They have ABS, but they don't have TC, so you have to be very, very gentle on the throttle, especially on corner exits. So coming through the Degners, especially as we see a little bit more of a snap there, a little front end wiggle as the camera changes. These cars are very, very sensitive to throttle inputs, and it's starting to show.
This FFS Racing livery, a little bit... too
much. There we go.
Too much of the loud pedal on the exit of the hairpin then for Gergo Panker. Action replay coming in from the cockpit. See him take the turn in here. And just a little bit too excited to get on that loud pedal. Just loops it round. And we predict that may happen a couple of times in these cup cars. Not going to be the first of the spins that we see. And quali almost done then for the cup car class. Macaulay trying to chase down on Noble. This will be the last lap that Macaulay gets to see if they can answer back. 2/10 behind as it stands. And certainly up on the Delta time to try and see what they can do. But Mike Noble, an absolute banger of a lap to do that 203.825. Macaulay on the run towards Spoon. You can just see the sunset in the background from that splitter cam. A nice, that's quite wide coming into Spoon. I'm not sure if it was invalidation for sure. And gonna just go for a drift, and the snapback punished into the wall.
For reference, he was 8/10 up on his Delta at one point. That would have put him in first by far. So that's a heck of a lap to bin. That's not what you want to see. And as we start to see the GT3s starting to line up to take their lap, but Alexander Guglia able to complete a lap as well. This will be their final lap to complete. And Alexander Guglia, looking at my timing sheet, they are up on their Delta, so there is chance to make something out of this. On the run down to 130R. Is he going to get it right? Let's see. He's going to dip in, turns the car in, hits the curb exactly as you want it. Could maybe have run it just a little bit wider. Maybe lost a bit of time there, but seems to have worked. He is still up on his Delta coming through the final, coming through the Casio triangle. Now last curve as well. Almost losing it, but coming round to the start finish now. He is still up, but losing. He lost a bit of time through there. He crosses the line, and is it going to be enough? No, it isn't. He is going to remain in P7, just behind Killian Ryan Meenan, and the GT3s will now take their turn.
So certainly a good effort coming out there then from our Cup car class. Killian Ryan Meenan got himself a third place last week at Kyalami, so we'll be hoping to try and get up onto the podium once again. So Adam Banfield in that number 3, going to be the first of the GT3s out on the circuit. We're going to see what they can do. Of course, this is the final stint of the qualifying, as you can see at the top, 10 minutes allocated per class. And Adam Banfield then going to be the front-running GT3 after the warm-up lap. Got out of the pits nice and early. We get to see an onboard lap. Oh, that sky is beautiful in the background. Absolutely exquisite. Splendid, even, as the ABM number 3 makes their way through the S's. You can just kind of see how that camber does disappear at the top of the last right-hander of Snake. And then you see it just dip away. Then a little bit of an uphill coming up to the left-hander for Dunlop. And then the right-handers, the double right-handers of the Degners. Degner 1, trying to extend it out, use some of that runoff, and hit that inside apex. A little bit more, but I think that might have even been an invalidation coming out there, Josh. You can confirm for me, but Adam Banfield just going to come down to the hairpin now.
Yeah, that is in fact an invalidation, sadly. So not going to be seeing a time from Banfield straight off the bat, but still time to move forward with that as well. There's 7 minutes of qualifying left. Current time in sim is 6:23 p.m, so it's going to be getting a little bit colder as well, as we see Banfield doing a little bit of Tokyo Drift. Obviously, big part of Japanese culture, so it's. I don't think that's the aim of the game today, though, Adam. I don't think that's what we're meant to be doing, but as impressive as it is to watch, just hits the inside curb and starts recreating the Fast and Furious movies.
Would have been more impressive if he held it without going to grass. So that's where the traction control in the GT3s kind of kicks in, kind of cuts the power, kind of stops you from being able to hold, what would be a power slide. And for the likes of Cody Pride, of course, our championship leader was the championship leader in the GT3s. I think still has been knocked down to third place. Jordan for show is actually our championship leader, Banfield in second. So Cody Pride sitting in third overall will come up to the line, and we will see the times coming in. Olaf Leffer in the 3:08 comes over the line and will jump up and set the first time in the GT3s, 2:02.046 coming in. So not a lot of difference between the first couple of GT3 times and the likes of the Cup car class. I think that big long back stretch does help out those Cup cars. We know how quick they can be. As far as we still understand, I think they've still got a little bit of a restrictor applied to that. Antonio Ceretti provisionally in second place, 3/10 off the pole sitting time of the likes of Alan Knight. The 970 goes and does a 201.5 as Vita slots into second there in the 221. 2/10 off the pace, but a 201.809 coming out for the R&M team. And also a very bright car, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. You can't miss that, especially as we're starting to go into the night transition as well. You certainly cannot miss it. I was actually saying to you, George, just before we started the stream, we were watching a little bit of the practice. It seems that Alan Knight's really putting in a good showing this time round. He's been quick in previous rounds, but he's been especially quick around Suzuka today.
Has indeed been quick. Also someone that's been quick is, of course, Hellman, or as we know him as Stewie. He had a good race qualifying, or should I say, coming into Kyalami, and then unfortunately there was a little bit of mishap that prevented him from having a conclusive good finish. So want to keep an eye out on the number 24 as well. Maybe a little bit of a surprise entry coming in, but Alan Knight in the 970 in the exquisite, I'd like to say, zebra-themed GT3, quite wide out on the exit of Spoon, but currently sitting in second place. Will make that third place as Cody Pride goes second. Alexander Shinov up into pole with a 2 almost flat, but a 2:00.675.
Oh, absolutely, and I think we're starting to see track limits really showing their hand as well. It's been quite a common theme so far, but it's not just a case of can you put, and we all know that Cody Pride can put in these times, but is he just pushing that little bit too hard, do we think? It's quite it's potentially the case there, and it seems to me that he's losing out a little bit because of it. But Alexander Shinov putting in a really good show as well with a 2:06, so only around 2/10 in it, so not a whole, 10th and a half in it even, so not a whole lot there either. Antonio Ceretti, third place provisionally as well, half a second behind the pole sitter, but is currently still up on their time. And Jordan Fouchard, the championship leader so far, putting in provisional pole with barely anything as well, just a 0.024 of a second in front of Shinov. So with only 2.5 minutes left to go of qualifying, there's still anything left to play for.
Very good time coming in for Jordan for sure. A definite contender to follow here. And like you said, leading up the championship at the moment. So it's not all about just big finishes, all about consistency as well. So Cody Pride has had the most wins so far. I think has taken 2 wins in the championship out of the 4 rounds or the 3 rounds that we have had. And then, of course, Adam Fisher has had 1 win. I think that was last week, and also just had some good point-paying finishes. So the Prime Racing number 11, looking to see if they can increase the tally of wins and extend the lead out. But not a lot in the points between the top 3 in the GT3s. So it feels like it can be anyone's race. And as we round ourselves closer and closer to that final 6th round, you need to make sure that all these races really work in your favor.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to kind of accumulate points over the long run. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but it starts with these like small kind of individual races and just trying to put your best foot forward, and it all starts in quali. Obviously that has a direct influence on as to where you start for the race, and then it has a direct influence over the long-term points. Fushaw is currently being pipped to provisional pole by Shinov, who we see just going a little bit wide, shower of sparks, but still 0.054 seconds ahead of Fushaw.
Yeah, that 500th is really nothing. It can be made in such a blink of an eye. And Jordan for sure here coming to fire in another lap. Is this going to be good enough to take pole position back? It's not. It's going to be a 2:00.807. So unfortunately, I don't think going to be attempting another one. Going to just accept starting from the front row. But Cody Pride, a driver who has the ability to add a little bit of upset into that front row, currently sitting on the 2nd row in 3rd place. Maybe got something left in the basket to check out. And the PPR Esports number 1 is trying to get themselves to the line ahead of the likes of Shinov and Fisher as he rounds himself through the hairpin and halfway through the circuit, give or take. This is probably my favorite part of Suzuka, and I think I've talked about the skyline enough, but just look how beautiful it does look when you do get glimpses of it. In through Spoon, as the timing clock for the 30-minute session has ended. A little bit too much inside apex there. We saw him wrestling with the steering wheel just briefly, as Cody Pride down the back stretch trying to see if they can get themselves just a little bit closer to the front end of the stick.
Absolutely, diving through 130R now, heading towards the Casio Triangle. He is up by a fair amount, so it looks like he has managed to avoid the worst of the track limits, and I believe that's another one of the GT3s. That cost him. That cost him big time. Just a GT3 stalling exit. I'm not sure who exactly that was. That was Antonio Serradi, as we see diving into the pit lane now. So that was a big hindrance.
We'll get a little replay of that as well coming in. Antonio Serradi just kind of parked on that inside apex, was heading into the pit box, and I'm not quite sure if they were aware that there was a driver coming in for a hot lap through there. But for Cody Pride, that's going to be the best they could do. So there we go, and we have a look at the starting grid for the GT3 class. Shinov starts up at the front in pole position alongside Fisher on the 2nd row, then Cody Pride and Knight in start in 3rd and 4th. 5th for Serradi, 6th for Banfield, Stasio in 7th, Leffa in 8th, Hellman starts 9th, and Vita in 10th. In the Cup car, we see Mike Noble up at the top, Joe McCauley in 2nd place, starting alongside him, and then, of course, James Parker starting 3rd, Panker 4th, Hilakalio 5th, Ryan Meenan in 6th, Googlia in 7th, and Sundstrom starting in 8th. And then down to the GT4s, Boardman starting in pole for their class, and then, of course, Kaizma starting alongside Baranowski will put that car into 3rd place. Kingston Lee starting 4th, Pike in Gleason starts 6th, Van Aken in 7th, Vondra in 8th, 9th for Webb, 10th for Redford, and rounding out the GT4 class will be Jacobson starting 11th. place with the triple digits, 101. Then on double digits, in 8th, Sebastian Luigi Vita with 98 points. Jules Sky in 9th with 92 points. And Corentin Burgess rounding out the top 10 on 89 points. Alan Knight in that 970 with 11th place overall so far on 81 points. Benjamin Heilman in 12th with 65 points. Lucas Rommel with 53 points in 13th. Panos Karatis in 14th with 44 points. Dominic Alvarez in 15th place with 28. And Jack Young with no points on the board may have pulled out of this race as well. But no points going to go the way of Jack Young in 16th place. In the Masters Cup, of course, this will be for the actual Cup cars. Mike Noble leading away on 149 points in first place. Joe McCauley in second place on 141 points. Killian Ryan Meenan showing granted some muscle, sitting in third place overall on 135 points. Mikael Sundström in fourth place on 132 points. Artur Berg Ertan on 125 points, sitting in fifth. In sixth place, Jesperi Helicalio on 118 points. James Parker, the 888, in seventh place with 112 points. Alexander Karsten on 111 points in eighth place. Mark Whitford in ninth with 99 points. And Alexander Guglia rounding out the top 10 on 92 points. Looking down to 11th place, Atsuka Nakar on 69 points. In 12th place, Gergo Panka with 59 points. Chris Rubila in 13th with 28 points. And Wojtek Lukaszek in 14th, then with 23 points. The GT4 class here in the Pro Split would be Andy Boardman sitting up in first place, 194 points there, 20 points ahead of Andrew Pike in second. Nico Kuzma in third place with 154 points. Thomas Baranowski with 149 points sits in fourth. Matthew Kingston Lee in fifth place with 134 points. Sixth would be Stefan van Aken on 117 points. Joe Gleaston sits seventh on 112. Ty Jolly in eighth place with 99 points. Michael Redford in ninth with 96 points. And rounding out the top 10, Vincent Valentine on 65 points. Further down that order, in 11th place, Michael Jacobson on 61 points. In 12th, Zoe Tang with 59 points. 13 for Victor Vondra on 54 points. 14th for Paul Reynolds with 51. 15th will be Phil Webb with 46 points. Michael Tuzabek in 16th with 28 points. And then Kyle Heidemann in 17th place on 0 points. So, Josh, with all the standings done, are we gonna make those ever famous RCI predictions for what we think is gonna happen?
Oh, okay. So, I was actually just about to bring this up with you as well, George. I think for GT3s, Cody Pride has shown pace the entire season, but so has for sure as well. And Shinov putting in a very surprising, well, I'd say surprising. It's not really very strong time. I think surprising is the wrong word. It's a very strong time to put themselves on pole. And so, I suppose what is a surprise is seeing Banfield so far down in sixth as well. He's obviously very high up in the standings as well. So it seems to be that the GT3 field is going to be a little bit mixed. So that's going to be interesting to see what's happening. But I'm going to hazard a guess and say that there's going to be very, very tight coming through the S's. And I can see Cody Pride finding a way through, but I don't think Richard's going to give him an easy time at all. With going down to the Cup cars, with Mike Noble, John McCauley, and James Parker in the first three, anything can happen. Let's face it, you can't really make predictions on that because those three drivers are so comparable to each other that it's kind of impossible to really say. And they're followed up by Gergo Panka and Killian as well, who are also very, very quick drivers. And again, there's nothing really in the GT4s as well, so for once, I'm kind of stumped. Not that my predictions are ever right anyway.
I mean, I think Cody Pride might come and deliver something back here for this race in the GT3. So I might put my money where my mouth is and pick the number 1 to finish first in the GT3s. I think in the Cup cars, I've always been a bit of a Mike Noble fan. But it's been made difficult, of course, with the pace that Macaulay has brought through. And, if James Parker gets a good race start, we saw just how good Parker can be racecraft-wise on the circuit. So I think it's a difficult one to pick there. And Killian Ryan Meenan as well, just also quite a consistent driver who could top a surprise victory if the other 3 get into a scrap. So I might... I'm a Mike Noble fan, boy. So I think I'm going to pick Mike Noble for the Cup cars, and I think I'd be wild to not go with anyone other than Andy Boardman in the GT4s. I think showing some pure class out in that particular division.
I think those are pretty solid names to choose. Obviously, there's some. As we've always said, there's some great names on the grid that we see every week, and obviously the interesting and the fun part is that it's not always all that easy to predict what's going to happen. It just makes the racing even more interesting. So, I think with that, that's going to be all eyes on those drivers.
Should be a good race. Suzuka, a firm favorite for many. I personally really enjoy this circuit from both a driving and broadcasting perspective. I think give good racing and also good spectators opportunities for watching a good race. Some good overtaking opportunities. I think it's got a good mix of high speed, medium speed, low speed corners. It's got the perfect balance, and the track surface is just wide enough as well for us to be able to really enjoy the side by side battles that can happen here.
Yeah, this track seems to be mainly about kind of just getting into a flow, and you can say that about any track, but here more than anywhere, especially with the first sector the way it is, and then it's so easy to kind of have your confidence kind of spooked a little bit, and that'll affect the rest of the lap. So, as you said, there's a lot of opportunities to go side by side, and a lot of opportunities for great racing. So, I think I'm with you, George. This track's absolutely amazing, and I'm glad to be here.
Certainly glad and looking forward to a good race. I hope that things all start out well. You need a good clean start to be able to have a good hour and 15 minutes worth of racing. In terms of pit stops and strategies, I'm curious to see just what takes place there. Last week at Kyalami, we didn't have to see too many real pit stop strategies coming in. Some of the drivers having to duck into the pits for, I believe sometimes some people try to put fuel in or change their tires, but I think as the series progresses, it kind of goes to show that if you can just stay out, make things work, that you are going to be in for a treat. We saw at Paul Ricard, there was sort of no way to really avoid pitting in the GT3s. Some of the guys just trying to extend their stints coming out, but majority of the field in the GT3 class did decide to go in for a little bit of fuel. So coming in now to the line, rolling down towards the start. We're about to kick off with round 4 here at Suzuka for the Porsche Masters Cup. Racing Club International, bringing you all the action. My name is George Smith, alongside Joshua Devonshire, and of course Jake Coombs in the box to bring us the broadcasting action. And a green flag is waved. That means we are green to go racing, and a good start for Shinov. Going to put Fisher and Pride almost side by side coming into the braking zone. But Cody Pride, what a run coming down into the start of the 2 curves. Gets himself the whole shot as well. Cody Pride from 3rd place gets himself up to 1st, convincingly forcing Shinov and Fisher to trail behind. The battle will be between them through the S's. You want to go single file. Don't want to be going side by side through here because you will lose a lot of time to people behind. What a start coming out from Cody Pride.
No, absolutely. He just saw a gap and went for it. I was expecting Fouchard to kind of give him a bit of a harder time, but it seems to be that in trying to battle with Shinov, just kind of put himself behind a little bit, gave Cody Pride the opportunity. He's like, thank you, and I will take that. And he's now kind of commanding the lead, so to speak, already pulling a bit of a gap on Shinov as well, as I'd possibly expect. I mean, we all know Cody Pride has amazing pace at the best of times, but traffic is also going to be a thing, and it's also going to be down to consistency and track limits as well. And this race is far from done. You know, we're not even a lap in yet, so Alexander Shinov been staying really, really composed, keeping Fouchard behind him as well, and going over to Mike Noble. And I believe Mike Noble's actually dropped down. Actually, no, Sebastian Luigi Vita is in the GT3. I had a bit of a dirt moment there. So yeah, Mike Noble still in the lead of the Cup cars, and doesn't seem to be as many changes there either.
No, so down that back stretch, you can just see how well those Cup cars can hold on. Andy Boardman getting away well in the GT4s ahead of Charisma, and then Baranowski and Pike behind him. You can just see Andy Boardman looking back at Charisma from this greased weasel racing number 69. One of my all-time favorite team names. I came across a good team name over the weekend whilst a lot of us were busy for the 24-hour broadcast at Kyalami in partnership with Raceface, and that was Ambitious But Rubbish as a team name. I quite like that. Alexander Guglia going to go side by side with Mikhail Sandstrom temporarily, but the Nearly On Pace team just trying to see where they can find themselves. Got to work together, I guess, to catch up to the back of Jesper Helicalio. A little bit of a gap forming up between these two drivers we're looking at on camera, or should I say 4 drivers. Nothing in it, though. 2 or 3 car lengths in a Cup car is absolutely nothing, but the race has only just begun. An hour and 12 minutes, as you can see on the clock. Jordan for sure falling off a little bit from the likes of Shinov then in that number 19. And the two of them need to work together to catch up to Pride, because Pride certainly is taking this for granted. Having that free air in front, not having a track to or a car to defend against on the circuit. Very good run out of the hairpin on the way to Spoon, but you can just see how big that gap has increased between the number 1 and, of course, the 19 and 11, who both round up the podium sitting positions.
Oh, absolutely. And I think in Cody Pride's head right now, it looks like Banfield's making a move on the inside of Spoon, but he will be blocked off by Saredi. Very good defensive driving there by Saredi, and might get an opportunity on the run down to 130R. It's going to have a little bit of a slipstream, but it's not going to be a case of what kind of exit can he get here. Can he make a move into the Casio Triangle? He's certainly not a million miles away from being able to make it happen, but he has also put Banfield under fire from Stanshio as well. Stanshio diving on the inside very late on the brakes, going side by side. Banfield will have the inside going down onto the main straight, and yeah, just able to kind of push Stanshio to the side just a little bit. You know, Stanshio hadn't quite made the move stick, and Banfield able to kind of assert sort of like his position on track, and nothing wrong with doing that, I don't think. So Stanshio going to have to take another attempt at getting by, but almost making that one stick. So it's quite entertaining to watch.
Nice work from both drivers there to make it cleanly through the chicane, as we see Jesper Helicalio trying to just shake off the likes of Sandstrom and Guglia. Both have caught up to the number 56 here. And just in front of them, we've got Kurgo Panka in that 778 green and gold Cup car. The 3 of the cars behind him trying to come in. Helicalio going to have to try and go ultra defensive to stop the likes of Sandstrom slipping away through. So this might cost them some time. Allow Panka to extend that little gap there and also take off the pressure just slightly. But Mikhail Sandstrom and Alexander Guglia, the 2 cars right now that are battling it out for the back end of the Cup car class. But certainly a very clean race coming in from everyone so far. And it's exactly what we said we needed, isn't it, Joshua?
No, absolutely. And it seems to be that people are starting to work together. Banfield catching right up to the back of Saredi yet again, and almost a little bit of contact going through Spoon there. And actually was a little bit of contact. Just as I speak, commentator's curse. It's an absolute classic. And that is going to give Banfield the run down to 130R, and seems to be he's already closing the gap. Is he going to take a look on the inside? He is, and it's not really the sort of place you want to try and make a move stick. There's only one line through there, Adam. What are you doing? And that's going to open it to Stanshio once again. And That seems to be Alan Knight also looking to see if he can pick up any scraps as well. Stanchu not quite as side by side as he was the last lap, but that was again lap after lap, very very tense. And this is what we were just saying. This is what this track is all about. There's so much of a combination, so much of a mix of corners that you see moves like this be done fairly frequently, and I think this is just the beginning.
Alan Knight thought that there was some opportunities coming into there, didn't he? Emil Stancio and Adam Banfield in a very funny position that they were, because of course already getting what can only be described as a little bit of a bump draft down at the back stretch and going nose to tail a little bit too close, and that cost Banfield. He tried to go on the inside of 130R, and that was certainly a very brave place to try and go, but you nailed it entirely there, Joshua. There's really only one line to go through there if you want to go through there quick, and that caused the whole backup behind and some opportunities for some other drivers. Meanwhile, up at the front, Cody Pride just extending that gap 3.8 seconds as we go through the hairpin, ahead of Shinoff and Fushaw, who have not left one another alone. They are nagging and trying to see what one another are made of, and certainly not yet done with their little battle, keeping each other in check and costing themselves to catching up to Pride at the moment. But Antonio Soretti, this is the view we would have wanted to see on the previous lap, because of just how much speed Banfield carried through Spoon, and again looking like he does have a slightly better line. Well, mid-corner he did. On the exit, a little bit wobbly, and that's going to cost Banfield dearly down the back stretch. But does that allow Stancio to rule in and try? Can't really have a look on the inside of this tight left-hander, but might be able to try and see if there's something to be had towards the braking zone. We saw an inside attempt being made later or early on in the race. Not going to be attempted here. Alan Knight, who actually ran very wide out of 130R, going to pick up track limit warning penalties if that continues to happen. So again, drive-through penalties, not something you want to get in a 75-minute race. So drivers going to be cautious to how they handle things out on the circuit.
No, absolutely. And I think if I had any, obviously I'm not that great at this game, but if I had any advice for Knight, it'd be don't try to recreate Alonso's overtake on the outside of 130R. And these guys, it's very difficult, if impossible, to do. So, I mean, props for trying. I'd see Mike Noble as well, being chased very closely by Macaulay. Obviously, the gap we've seen with the GT3s are nowhere near as tightly packed as this, and doesn't seem like they're so tightly packed, but you have to remember, this is a long race, so relatively speaking, the Cup cars are very, very close together indeed, and you see Banfield almost, he has lost it slightly going into the gravel on the Degnas, but seems to have lost it a little bit at turn 8, but managed to save it. We'll see a replay of that, and I think he just took a bit too much of a liberty on the inside curb. Again, very easy to do. You kind of want to cut it as much as you can to save the time. But yeah, there is a very, very hard limit as to how much you can take. And I think Banfield has just found it.
Pushing the limits and almost exceeding them there. And of course, that's going to cost the time gap up towards Soretti. But it works in the favor of Stanchiao, Knight, and Hellman, who all are trying to get through. From this back wang gang view, you can start to see just that train of GT3s forming up, and far in the distance, not good enough for our eyes to see, the Cup cars having their own little squabble out there. Noble and Macaulay doing a good job to keep each other honest, as James Parker slightly behind at the back end then of Joe Macaulay. Joe Macaulay sitting in the slipstream there. Killian Ryan Meenan also still in it. You touched on this. It's a long race. There's plenty of things to happen. You got to manage your tires. You got to make sure you're managing your fuel loads as well. These Cup cars have massive tanks, so they won't be struggling for fuel. But in those GT3s, I'd be interested to see if there's something that needs to sort of go into the pit stop strategies, what kind of engine mappings they're running, etc. Banfield goes into the pits, and I wonder if that little bump draft attempt that he had on Soretti down the back stretch out of Spoon maybe damaged the front aero, and that was what was upsetting him coming through the Degnas. So possibly going in to just go and make some repairs to that front splitter. Very sensitive cars, the GT3s, especially when it comes down to aerodynamics and downforce. The number 69 of Andy Boardman, building up a nice big gap to Charisma. 1.8 seconds as he comes through the final chicane, makes the run down to the start-finish line.
No, absolutely. And I'm not entirely certain if that bump would have caused that much aero damage, to really make that big of a difference. I mean, the aerodynamics, as you say, George, they are absolutely very sensitive on the GT3 cars, especially. And I'm just wondering if it's something a bit more trivial. Maybe just get the tire pressures a little bit wrong, because that can also really, really upset these cars as well. There's a million reasons that it could be, but it could also be that just burn off enough fuel, take an early stop, throw in enough fuel to finish the rest of the race, and try to get the undercut on everyone else. I think you touched on fuel as well, George. I don't know if the GT3s are going to have enough fuel to make the entire race, so perhaps a bit of early strategy coming in.
Perhaps a bit of early strategy coming in. I mean, it's not too long into the race to have a first pit stop, so it would be a very early pit stop in my eyes. But we just have to keep our eyes out and see what the other drivers manage to do. That means that Antonio Ceretti will then be under pressure immediately from the likes of Stancio and Knight, who maybe being held up there behind Bantfield. Whilst Bantfield was struggling with that car in the previous lap, that's going to allow Stancio and Knight to have a fair shot at getting into P4. 3/10 updated over the timing line, make that 4/10 as they do get updated crossing through there. Joe McCauley doing a great job, 3/10 behind Noble to still hang on to this. And that's quite a big gap they've got to James Parker, as you can see in the background. Parker and Ryan Meenan might be in their own battle together. Panko, Helicalio, and Sundstrom all still towards the back end of the Cup car class. But certainly a good drive coming out from the number 18 so far to hold up on the back end of Noble. This was almost what we saw last week, except replaced Joe McCauley. He was Mike Noble in this situation, the car in front. Mike Noble was James Parker at Kyalami. So a good battle between these three drivers always seems to take place on the circuit. And that skyline is just phenomenal from the splitter view here. As you can see, Josh, I'm a bit of a photography guy. I appreciate a good sunset.
Oh, 100%. I mean, golden hour light often just makes these pictures worth it. Like, I really a flash from John McCauley there going through here. Just looking at maybe potentially making a move going down into the hairpin, but not quite going to be close enough. But yes, I would kill to be trackside with a camera at this point. I mean, little fun fact about me, at least outside of the commentary box, this is the kind of thing I really want to start doing, kind of in person, kind of like for a job. So I definitely appreciate talking about the whole photography aspect of ACC. It's such a good looking game, and they've done such a good job with the lighting, and it's just how menacing McCauley's car looks from the rear view of Mike Noble.
Losing a little to touch on these cars as well. I mean, to push them to the limits and hold them at the limits is a difficult thing to do. They're good fun to drive, but driving at the limit in them is so difficult to do. In the GT3 cars, we see that gap closing down from Ceretti to Stancio. Stancio maybe going to have a look on the inside. Defensive goes the likes of Ceretti, and the door closing down. That's actually going to take out two drivers. It's happened too soon, hasn't it, Josh? Emil, Stancio, Ceretti, and Knight all getting caught up there. And we'll get a replay for sure of what took place there.
It just looks like, from this perspective, it just looks like Ceretti just moves over a bit too late defensively to try to block against Stancio, and just, or maybe Stancio just a little bit over enthusiastic with trying to force the overtake. It's hard to tell from this angle, but our stewards will be looking at that. But that's got to be frustrating from Knight's perspective. I know Donington, he was involved in a couple of incidents as well, but to kind of have it on the opposite, kind of have it coming back around, so to speak, especially with showing so much pace this time around, it's not going to be, I can't imagine he's too happy about that.
I think Ceretti was sort of almost crabbing across to the right side of the track, trying to go and defend the inside line, which I guess is not the ideal line coming into the curves 1 and 2 anyway. But can't help but feel terrible for this number 970. Alan Knight sort of saw the two cars in front of him going for a move. He kept well clear on the left side of the track. Thought, well, if you're going to scrap it out, I'm going to be able to take advantage of this, and then just got caught up from the likes of Rci, who was then coming across the track as a passenger at that point, and getting hit quite hard as well. We talked about very sensitive downforce related issues, and a big hit like that from all three cars, I think, going to be suffering quite heavily. And you can see that on the timing sheet, they now find themselves all the way down behind the Cup cars. So lots of traffic to have to now navigate to get through. If you've got a damaged car, that's made even harder, especially for a very downforce dependent circuit, especially in those mid-speed corners. You obviously don't want too much downforce for the back stretch, but majority of the circuit, you do need your downforce to work in your favor.
No, absolutely. And I think there's also a very big difference between downforce and drag as well. With a big hit like that, you can get drag with none of the benefits of downforce as well. So that's definitely not ideal. But we saw a similar move with the Formula One this weekend as well. It's Cody Pride. I believe this is a replay that we're getting. I'm not seeing any UI on the screen. And yeah, Cody Pride having a little bit of a moment in Sector 1. It's not going to cost them too much, but it's going to pitch the car into a bit of a spin. And I believe that is... Oh, yes, that is P2 and P3. That is Fouchard and Shinov coming around. So Cody Pride has lost the lead. He's currently sitting in P3 and has to do all of that work that he did, that he got done in T1. He has to do that all over again now, and that is not going to be what he was after. But this race just got a lot more interesting up at the front.
But sad for my prediction then of having Cody Pride up at the front with the whole shot. But certainly all got unraveled there, didn't it? And the number one now going to have to use that pace that they had at the start of the race to close down that gap. Shinov inheriting the lead for sure. Then 2.1 seconds behind. It looks like Leffer and Heilman, they getting themselves nice and close together. And then we've got Vita, who is just on the tail end of this, trying to get in there. But Benjamin Heilman, much better start coming out here than they had at Kyalami. And the Pink Elephant Racing, number 24, just one place away from getting onto the podium. They are 8.6 seconds down the road, so this mid-pack fairly spread out. And the pressure from Leffe to get into that fourth position spot being mounted up as they come down into the chicane. Very deep goes Heilman. Has he managed to back them up like a cork in the champagne bottle on the exit? I think it's just enough to do so. Gets himself back onto the racing line in time for the other drivers to have to slow themselves down. But Sebastian, Luigi, Vita in a very prime spot here to see what happens in front and try and pounce on getting themselves up into this exact spot in number 4.
Absolutely, and if things get fighty up at the front, who knows what could happen. There's still an hour of this race pretty much to go, so Hellman currently doing a very, very good job with fighting off the cars behind, but finally coming to traffic as well up at the front. Cody Pride squeezing through one of the GT4s. Not quite entirely certain who that was, but look at the pace difference right now. Cody Pride right on the back of Fouchard's gearbox. Actually, that's the engine in these, isn't it? With it being rear engine, so the gearbox is actually, I'd imagine, situated just before the engine, but that's pointless because that's what it's talking about, because Cody Pride making the move on Fouchard going wide at the hairpin, and Cody Pride just making the move stick, taking the quicker line, and Fouchard not really putting up too much of a fight. However, can we see a move coming back? Can we see Fouchard try to take back that position, that P2? And I don't think so. Going into Spoon, a little bit of a gap forming. And it's getting decisively darker as well. I'm noticing the track lights coming in a little bit more. And that's you see the other GT4s coming up as well. And again, not quite too sure who that is in the GT4, but the GT3s are making it through cleanly. Going into 130R.
I mean, Cody Pride certainly got a lot of pace on the circuit and putting that to good use after recovering from the spin. Emil Stanchiao now on the back end of Seredi, who is very damaged up, going to make the easy side-by-side decision as they come down into 130R. Gets the car positioned in a right, on the right side of the track to be able to take that difficult, fast left-hander, and then gets the car slowed down enough. Both of them using a lot of that inside curb and just not quite upsetting themselves. So good speed being carried out, and a nice move being made then as we look up towards the front end and see Jordan Fouchard in the prime racing number 11 trying to hunt back at that position for Pride. Pride doesn't want to get involved in this. He just wants to make sure that Shinov doesn't get away from this. And, kind of think that Cody Pride is running something a little bit different to these other cars in terms of engine mapping or his fuel strategy, because the pace coming out is just insane. And we'll have to see if that's to do with, kind of banking on an extra stop or a stop compared to drivers maybe driving a little bit more conservatively out there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw at the end of Donington, Cody Pride took that absolutely commanding win with 30 seconds or so ahead of P2. And he took a fairly lengthy stop with that as well. And he was saying in the chat afterwards that his tires had got down to about 24 psi. So we are talking about a man here who seems to go all out or nothing. So it seems to be we are seeing a repeat of that. So I don't know if the GT3s are going to be able to make an entire race with no stops. But if anyone can do it, I'd imagine it would be him. See Sebastian Luigi Vita right on the back of Leffer in the 308 Porsche, and heading down to 130R, running a little tiny bit wide through Spoon. And Leffer gonna have to start thinking about going defensive. It looks like he's trying to break the slipstream just a little bit of a jiggle to the left, but it seems to be Vita will get the run down and potentially for a look down into Casio Triangle.
Just trying to gauge it up, and they're going to catch themselves up to some GT4 traffic. Vita then going to go around the outside. The back marker, of course, the GT4 just holding his line, and it's horrible to call them back markers when they're just in different classes of cars. But in this circumstance, Leffer doing the right thing, just trying to get by. I think Vita using the unwritten rule of racing to try and use the back marker as a little bit of a springboard to see if they could jump the likes of Leffer in this 308. But it will be another battle to happen later on in this part, or on the circuit, as they just form themselves back up into that 1-2 train formation to go through the S's. Joe McCauley still hanging on to the back of Mike Noble. I don't think there has been more than half a second's gap between the two of them since they started this race. So Joe McCauley doing a great job at keeping Mike Noble honest. And to me, Mike Noble, one of the kings of cup cars when it comes to ACC. I think my first experience coming into commentary done in cup cars, and from the very beginning, Mike Noble's always just been someone that I've been very much in appraisal of, and a big fanboy. So no shame in admitting it. Mike Noble does disgusting things on the circuit for me. So we'll see a little combined no coming out from us both there, as unfortunately the number 49 going to have to put some new pants on after that moment.
No, absolutely. It's Victor Vondra just getting caught up a little bit there, and yeah, as you say, the combined that's not what you want to see, but doesn't seem to have set them back too far, luckily. And speaking of having a moment, I'm not seeing Alan Knight on our scoreboard or our timing sheets. So has Alan Knight dropped out after that incident?
I have also not seen a timing sheet update there, so potentially a race-ending moment then coming in for. Oh no! Look at Mike Noble's front end.
Oh no!
That is a very, very interesting aero kit. Oh no!
Oh.
This is going to be the oh no stream at this point, to be honest, as Mike Noble catching the back end of the GT4s there, and he now has what can only be described as a Beetle front end in his cup car.
I'm trying not to say it. I'm cracking it up. Okay, so yeah, that's not what you want. Definitely not what you want. That is going to gift. I believe that was James Barker going through 130R. And yeah, absolutely. Reminds me of kind of seeing those air vents on the front of the GT3 road cars. You know, the 911 GT3s. They have that kind of air vent in the front of the hood.
Yeah,
so
the new 992 certainly has that sort of more sort of defined out as well in the new 2021 car. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Probably nicer than calling it a Beetle. So I'll probably be probably given a bit of flack from that for saying that about my favorite manufacturers. But I mean, I'm feeling like I've given a little bit of a curse out to the drivers that I predicted out here. So I'm just hoping nothing happens to Boardman, and then I might be able to escape from the comms box without the threat of a knife. But so far, hasn't gone too well for my predictions.
No, it has not, but then again, neither has mine. So it goes to show that this track could definitely throw up some curveballs. Yeah, I mean, first of all, let's recompose for just a moment. Let's recompose for just a moment. We are going to see a recovery drive from Mike Noble, I think. Hopefully we will. It'd be good to see him sort of like try to make their way through the field. Obviously, it's never nice seeing a car drop out, especially after something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what Mike Noble can do. Hopefully we will see that Porsche exit the pit lane. Obviously, it has gifted James Parker P2 in the Cup Car stakes as well. So can we see James Parker catch up to the back of Macaulay? Can we still see that battle, or is Macaulay going to run away with clear air? That's another thing we have to kind of look out for at this point. And seems like Killian Ryan Meaton also isn't too far behind either. So yeah, the Cup Car class just got very interesting indeed.
Oh, three wide and a whole mixture of classes in one shot. GT4s, Cup Cars, as we see Sundstrom and Helicalio going alongside each other. Oh no. It's we're gonna have to get a race replay of that. Ryan Gill in the chat pointing out the stewards are not going to be too happy, and they certainly aren't coming through here. The Cup Cars trying to make their way through the traffic, and not too much space to really go down, and then obviously kind of caught off guard. Helicalio catching that inside of the apex to turn one, kind of sends that Cup Car alongside into the likes of Sundstrom, and the two of them then collide with that GT4 car as well. So what started out as an epically clean race, Josh, has now made sure that the stewards are going to be busy for a very, very long time. But up at the front, Cody Pride trying to recover some pride and take back the championship or the race leading spot in that number one. Shinov going to have to stay defensive. Alexander Shinov doing a good job there. We've seen how drivers can use that final chicane. Kind of reminds me of when you get a yellow safety car out in Formula 1, you back the pack up, especially if you've got a final chicane like we saw this weekend at Barcelona, and you can kind of get a good hole shot then down the straight, catch the drivers behind you off guard. And Shinov did a good job there to try and keep Pride at bay, but I don't think that's going to be enough, especially just looking at Pride's ability to catch back up, and pace-wise on the circuit, just unrivaled currently in that GT3 number one. So right now, the Jaws music playing for Shinov, and a hard defense going to have to be laid down to stop anything from happening.
No, absolutely. And it looks like, as we say that, Cody Pride making the move. He has to back out just a little bit, but can he get the switchback? Shinov going a little bit wide, almost onto the gravel there, and just conceding the position to Pride, and that sort of settles the order a little bit. We've seen the kind of pace that Pride has, and it comes down to, has he burnt off? Speaking of strategy and engine maps and all of, and speaking about all of that, I do wonder if Pride actually has the ability to go for the long haul, or whether or not he's burnt off with too much fuel and has to make that stop. So that could also affect the results. As Seredi coming in with, I believe that is a 10-second time penalty. That'll be for the incident going down into Tier 1, that defensive move. It looks like it's a stop-go penalty, sorry. I have been corrected. And yeah, that will be for the incident going down into T1, that defensive maneuver that we saw, and causing Stanchu and Alan Knight to also go off into the gravel. So that will also need to be served as well.
I'm so glad I do not have to make the call as the stewards tonight, because there have been some very race-ending moments coming out. Noble in the chat and letting us know that the race is done. Says that there was oversteer into him there. Mike, I couldn't be more sad. I gave you the curse. I predicted you to win. You know I'm a fanboy. And certainly not the way we wanted to see that race end there. Joe McCauley is just having a flyer of a time, gets past Seredi as well. So this Cup car certainly got the legs on it. And I guess for Antonio Seredi, going to go and serve his stop-go penalty on the side before the chicane. Maybe even actually just going to retire entirely out from this. Obviously getting caught out on the pace. Very damaged car coming in. So very unfortunate circumstances for a lot of the drivers here not being able to get it to the end either. But we can only make do with what we've still got on the circuit. And right now it's Vita and Leffer starting to put the pressure on out through the Dunlop curve. And on the approach then to the Degner, Sebastian Luigi Vita, kind of getting sick of seeing the bright Lumo rear end of the 308 in front. Says that both of them doing a good job to also just hold on to the back of Heilmann whilst trying to find position between them. But this 221 just unable to find their way past. On the flashes as well, trying to put them off coming into the braking zone for the hairpin. But Leffer reads it like a book, and a good exit from all three cars then going into the hairpin.
Absolutely. Do you think that flashing in ACC is kind of the equivalent of vulgar language or gestures for drivers who have no other ways of communicating whilst on track? It's such a universal language, I think. But yeah, credit to Hellman though for keeping the Leffer and Vita behind. Obviously, this has been going on for quite a few laps now. Obviously, with 42 minutes of the race to go, Hellman's still hanging on to P4. So, credit where it's due. That's some amazing defensive driving, especially when you have two other 911s just breathing down your neck. And I dare say at this point, maybe even pulling a gap if Vita and Leffer keep fighting the way they are. Who is going to be later on the break? Seems to be that no gap is really going to grow or shrink. And it seems to be that these three cars are just running fairly consistently.
Correct. And on the exit from the final chicane, going to see them all space themselves out. Probably the most space they've had since they started out this race. But 41 minutes to go on the race clock means that plenty can still happen. I suppose for Hellman, that defense doesn't stop until he sees the checkered flag. And there are certain aspects of the circuit that all three drivers seem to be particularly good at. They managed to close that gap down on one another. Banfield, 1.4 seconds behind the likes of Panker, but Panker in the Cup car. So overall, we've got Panker ahead then of the number 3. Banfield did go into the pits very early on. And does he have some more damage starts on the car? Doesn't look like it. Maybe just from a distance there. I don't have the greatest of eyesight on the best of days, and just navigating through the GT4 traffic as they come down into the S's. Joshua, I just have to correct something. Ryan in the chat saying that I laughed at Mike Noble's misfortune. It was you that laughed. Can we just what? Right? It wasn't me.
I wasn't laughing at Mike Noble. I was laughing at you. You did the oh no again, and that set me off yet again. I just composed myself. We have fun here at RCI.
We do have fun. Yeah, there we go. We were doing some honors, and it caught Joshua off guard. There was no laughing at anyone's misfortune, and I certainly would not laugh at Mike Noble. I've asked him to actually sign quite a few bits and pieces of my garments because I want to sell them one day, and I certainly wouldn't impact that. Oh, coming into traffic then, Luigi Vita is going to go very deep and come into contact then with the back of the likes of Michael Redford, and Redford into the pits then, maybe also needing to just repair some of the damage done to the back end of that car. So we see Banfield make his way through the field, gets past the 778 of Panker, and that's just one of the Cup cars that he needs to do to get up to the GT3s in front. Olaf Leffer on the back end of Heilmann, and trying to see if those bullying tactics can work out for them at some point in this race. But Heilmann, cool, calm, and composed, as any German would be. It's always serious, no laughing, no jokes. It's all about making sure they get to that checkered flag. And through the S's, certainly just holding the lines that would yield you the best position coming out, force the other drivers to go an alternate way around, cost themselves time, and hope that Vita catches back up to Leffer and keeps Leffer very busy until the end of the race.
No, absolutely. And if he can make Leffer kind of burn off a little bit of tires, maybe fuel as well, and seems that Hellman can just take it a little bit easy. You see the crossover there from the helicam; it looks absolutely amazing, and this looks like Leffer thought about making a move on the inside, compromised his line slightly, and almost had Vita go into the back of Leffer as well. It kind of caught Vita by surprise. Just kind of just closes the cars up just a little bit more. Obviously, we saw going down into T1, Leffer right on the back of Hellman. Again, amazing defense from the pink and blue Porsche. And can we see something happen? Obviously, we've seen Stanshu tried to make moves very early on in the race, going down into the Casio Triangle. Leffer running a little bit wide through Spoon. That's allowing Vita just to kind of get a little bit of a better exit. It seems you can see that gap closing up, and I don't know if there's going to be enough of a space to try thinking about a run into 130. Yeah, he thinks about it, but not quite. They're not quite brave enough to make it stick. But can that bring into play for the Casio Triangle? And we see Cody Pride in the pits as well from P1. So maybe again fuel.
We thought there would be something maybe different to what the other GT3 drivers were running here. So we do see Pride going in. Darren Pride actually confirming in the chat that he did start with a full tank of fuel, so it wasn't like there was a half tank to begin with, and certainly maybe getting to the point of just running with an engine mapping that has forced them to go and just top up the tank to the end of the race. Not entirely sure of Pride's strategy coming out here, but it will promote these drivers we are following along with, Leffer, Hellman, and Vita, all staying in shot of one another as they make their way through the circuit once again. Leffer in that 308, just in the sandwich between Vita and Hellman. Jesper Hilicalio catching up to the likes of Mikael Sandstrom. They've also caught up to some traffic in the GT4s. And that will be a little bit of a slow exit then for Jesper Hilicalio. Has to abandon that attack. Has to try again later. Banfield has caught up to Killian Ryan Meenan now as they make their way through the S. This is probably a place you don't want to be caught out behind another GT or a cup car, should I say, whilst you're in the GT3. You probably have more ability to come through and kind of have a lot more ability to handle these sort of corners. So getting kind of alongside as they approach the dingers again. Not a place you really want to be in. And Killian Ryan Meenan goes for that inside line. Under no obligation to move out of the way at all for these other classes. We'll see a little bit of a tap actually sending Killian over that inside curb. Luckily, the cup cars have a little bit more of a bouncy suspension and can absorb that up, but certainly under no obligation to move, especially if it's for overall position. It's up to the quicker cars to pass safely as per the rule set.
No, absolutely, and there's Van Eyck and I believe that is also Vondra as well. Very, very similar liveries, but I'm not seeing a team name on Vondra, so I'm wondering if it's like a late minute kind of collaboration going on there. It almost definitely seems like it, unless there's some kind of mockery, not mockery, but what's the word? Kind of mimicry going on with the paintwork there. It's very difficult to tell the two apart, actually, other than the number, but still very, very close racing, fighting for P21, and I mean, there's still points on the table, and every position does count, so looking down into the hairpin, can he get the run on the inside? I don't think he can, so seems to be he's going to be able to tuck in just a little bit more. And obviously the GT4 cars less affected by the dirty air as well, so they can follow closer. They can get a bit closer and get a little bit more, even more door-to-door than what we've seen. So could be definitely an interesting potential for another move.
Just got to kind of set these kind of things up in the GT4s. You don't have as much aero effect or slipstream effect either. So it does come down to some pretty consistent driving. You also don't suffer from that dirty air wash in the GT4, so you can drive and follow along closer for longer durations and through a lot more of the medium and high-speed corners. But a good run coming out from Victor Vandra, coming down into the braking zone then for the chicane. Not quite close enough this time round to have a look for a move, but in all tin top racing, it's a lot of planning that goes down. You don't have the push to pass of modern Formula One cars, with the DRS being able to open up your back wing, and you don't certainly have an overtake button to give you an extra boost of power. So you do have to do a lot of planning whilst driving, and it's a lot of concentration that goes down, not only into putting in your own lap times, but trying to also plan it for the traffic. Hellman, a little bit of a mistake on the mid part of the chicane. That might allow the likes of Olaf Leffer to go alongside. And I think Hellman doing the right thing here, just staying defensive on the outside, trying to carry more momentum down into curve 1 and 2, try and force the 308 to kind of outbrake themselves. Need to be careful that two dark cars don't come through. Vita trying to spot that out will then put themselves alongside the likes of Hellman behind, but a good move coming up from Leffer, and Hellman manages to lose one position but hold on to the other potential risk that was coming in from behind there.
No, absolutely. It definitely seems like the cars behind Hellman, with Leffer and Vita, definitely do have the pace on him, but maybe the cracks are starting to form in Hellman's defense. Obviously, provisionally, now P4 with Leffer getting by, as the timing sheet's just changed there as I speak. But still, but obviously don't discount Pride. Obviously, we don't know what the other strategies of the other cars is going to be, with only half an hour left remaining. Speaking of Cody Pride, however, slowly making their way back through on the back of Stanshu now. And it won't be long, I'd imagine, until he finds a way through. I mean, we know what Pride's pace is. We've seen him do it several times this race alone. And back with Luigi Vita, still behind Hellman. Still Hellman having to recompose slightly. He did a great job just making the mistake and only allowing Leffer through. And there wasn't really a whole lot more he could have done than what he did in defense. So absolutely amazing driving from Hellman for this period of time.
Must only agree to that. The number 24 having a spectacular drive here. Had a great quali out at Kyalami. Not quite the best of starts to the race for them, though. So good to see them bringing some great racecraft out here to the circuit. Some pace, some good defense coming out as well. And certainly giving us a good show. Andrew Pike from OTL Racing in that number 57. On the back end of Baranowski, and that number 35 in front as they make their way through Degner 1 and then send it down into Degner 2. You can just see GT4s can also use a lot more of that curb than perhaps the GT3s can. They carry a little bit more pace, a little bit less pace coming into it. And a bit of a mistake maybe from the likes of Pike coming into the hairpin. Tries to take a little bit more of a swoop, maybe see if there's a bit more momentum to carry out. But Thomas Baranowski with a better exit then as they make the approach up to Spoon. So a couple of car lengths then between the number 35 and the number 57, just enough for them to have it. And so far, so good for the GT4s. I think it looks like, from what we've seen, just the least number of race-ending incidents happening for them, even though they've kind of been tangled in with some of the other classes.
No, absolutely. It seems that Luigi Vita picking up a 15-second time penalty along the way at some point and parked up alongside. So I'm wondering if that's kind of a sign of just giving up, just kind of parking the car, 15 seconds being too much, or maybe he's trying to go right to the end, or...
Looked like the car just cut out.
Did he run out of fuel? Did he underfuel the car and try to push it just a little bit too far, just trying to fight with Hellman and try to see if the one stop or a no stop would work?
But I mean, quite a way away from being able to make that a one-stopper at 30 minutes remaining, but maybe just trying to, like you said, push it, crank the engine mapping down, and
oh no, that was Killian Ryan Meenan, I believe.
Yeah, with the Cup car coming through there, the Side Max Motorworks 231, just having a big contact then, and
just lost it on the oversteer. Sorry.
No, this was before that. So the 231 damages the back wing then into the exit of Dunlop, right? And then now catches it again, and a big slide coming in and sliding through. So I mean, that was a strange set of circumstances to have that, because Sebastian Luigi Vita was only parked there because we are not even quite sure of what happened to their car just cut out, and we suspect maybe something to do with fuel or an actual hardware failure. But up at the front in the GT3s, sitting in 5th place at the moment would be Pride, making that move on Stancio on the exit of the 2nd curve. So Pride making their way through the field. Not a big field to have to make themselves or make their way through. Here we see Heilmann just trying to get past the GT4 traffic. Just trying to give them the space that they need. The GT4 is going to break a little bit earlier there. Heilmann going to go very wide off the track. That's a battle for position between the likes of Gleeson and Vondra, as far as I understand it. Vondra going to now be on the outside, coming into the hairpin. And it will look like Joe Gleeson going to make the move once again. Is that Joe Gleeson in the 742? Yes, it is. So it was Joe Gleeson on the outside. Please forgive me.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting race so far, and Andrew Pike obviously making their way through, making their way past Baranowski. Banfield also looking at catching up through the field as well, but that's kind of irrelevant considering Baranowski looking to take the position back, just kind of going on the outside of T1. We saw Hellman defending on this line, but is he going to quite get the speed? I don't think he is, but can he get the cutback going through T2 into the S's? Quite possibly. He can follow fairly closely, and he will do that. But not quite. Yeah, no, just not quite on the pace there to keep up. And behind them, obviously, we see the race leader as well. That is Alexander Shinov behind in the Gulf-coloured Porsche. And not where you want to catch the GT4s at all through the S's, because obviously the GT3 being a lot quicker, but there's only one line through there. In a bit of a GT4 sandwich, will he get through cleanly? I'd imagine that will be the case. And he will. He'll get through just at the top of the hill, but that will separate the battle for, I believe it's P4 in the GT4 positions between Pike and Baranowski. That has separated the two. So Baranowski's got a bit more work to do to be able to catch up, as we see Gleeson being over... No, Gleeson holding off, sorry. Or attempting to get around the 49 of Vondra for P20.
Good little battle coming out from these two GT4s, and as far as I understand it, the two of them trying to, of course, increase their championship points. So anything that they manage to do here will be worth it overall. And Gleeson just trying to see if there's a read in this book that will allow them to get themselves past. But that chapter yet to be written on the flashes. Maybe it's just saying, okay, you got a bit of a better read on me here. As we look over to our race leader in the GT3 class, Alexander Shinov in the number 19, the Desperate Measures Porsche, taking a lot of that curb through the chicane. We've seen a couple of drivers get upset by that. This time around, not going to impact them too much.
No, and it's kind of what you want to see. You want to see everyone kind of make it through cleanly, and you see Fushaw in the background there as well, so Shinov not exactly running away with it. Obviously, Fushaw still in sight of, and anything can happen in terms of strategy coming up in the final 25 minutes now of the race. And it's going to be just traffic management as well. It looks like Shinov just getting caught behind one of the other Caymans, and Cayman will seem to yield and let them through, but it's also cost the 19 some more time as well.
Just trying to do all the management they can, especially with the traffic on the circuit. Can't take it for granted. Joe McCauley, what a blistering drive coming out from the number 18 so far. Bit of a pity we don't get to see Mike Noble and Joe McCauley shooting it out on track, because I think we'd have been in for a real treat. But without that taking place, it's a massive gap between McCauley and Parker. 10.8 seconds is the timing difference. So for us as viewers and broadcasters, I suppose that's a little bit unfun to see that as an end result, because that was a battle that was brewing up, and Mike Noble was doing a good job at just holding McCauley behind, and McCauley doing an equally good job at just staying half a second behind and keeping Mike Noble honest.
Absolutely. And I actually have a bit of a question for you, George. Do we think Banfield is carrying damage? Or do we think that the pace of the Cup car, especially with McCauley at the helm, do we think the Cup car is legitimately just keeping up kind of with pace of Banfield's GT3.
I
Because
think I think Banfield's carrying maybe a little bit of damage or something untoward. I'm not quite sure. It's a difficult one to answer, but Banfield has been making his way through. Had to navigate a lot of those cup cars, didn't he? So I guess pace is coming through eventually. Sometimes when you do have a bit of a damaged car, you kind of adjust to it, and you're able to be a little bit more risque out on the circuit. Push the limits a little bit more, even though you feel a little bit uncomfortable. But for Adam Banfield, certainly hasn't gone the way that they would have wanted their race to go. But the number 3 will certainly not want to end up behind one of the cup cars when that checkered flag drops. So 23 minutes to go, needs to get past and start to move up towards maybe one of the GT3 cars in class. But a big gap between making that happen and making it a reality.
no, absolutely. It all comes down to what Stanshio is about to do. Surely Stanshio is also carrying damage from the earlier collision with Saridi. So, but again, it's all very possible, and it's all going to play out in the final 20 minutes of the race. Baranowski still chasing down the back of the 57 Porsche. I mean, there's no point saying the manufacturer, they're all Porsches. So just down the back of the 57 Cayman. I'll correct myself. Seems to be he's just getting a big run, closing the gap, especially in the slow speed corners. I wonder if it's some kind of setup difference as well. If one car's stronger in certain parts of the track than the other, which is typically the case. But both seem fairly evenly matched, as we see Leffer coming up to the GT4s as well, and this could either help or hinder them.
Certainly could. Jordan, for sure. Just 1.2 seconds then behind the number 19. Jake Coombs, our producer in our ear, just reminding us that Banfield did go early into that pit box, which, it was sort of at the 15 minutes into the race mark. We weren't quite sure of what that was that went through. So making their way through the field, just as a reminder out to the number 3, but certainly picked up a lot more time deficit to Macaulay looking at the timing sheet. But 2 drivers without that gap increasing are these front 2 running cars, the number 19 and the number 11. They've got 21 minutes left of the race to kind of play their cards out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not really all that much more time that's left. I mean, we've seen some absolutely amazing battles. Obviously, we saw Heilmann hold off Leffer and Sebastian Vita for most of the race. Seeing for sure catching right up to the back of Shinov as well. That gap is certainly shrunk just a bit. You see the exhaust glow as well. It's one thing I absolutely love about this game. Obviously, you see it at night. Just kind of you see the heat and the exhaust on, especially in the straights. And see if we can get a look at that when they run down to 130R and heading down towards the hairpin now. And who's going to get the better exit? Is that gap going to close up slightly? It's just a case of keeping an eye on the delta. 8/10 behind Shinov is Fushaw. And the number 11, 911, riding on board with now on the run down to Spoon, and it's going to just pick out the braking spot. He's just going to try to just not just keep Shinov in sight, but just try to figure where he's losing time at this point. It's at this point you're planning the overtake. You're not looking at making the move immediately. Obviously, you're way too far back for that, but you're planning corners, if not laps ahead. You're thinking, okay, he's slow in this part of the track, and I'm quicker than him here, and I can, by calculations, I'll catch up with him at 130R and then make a move into the triangle or whatever is going through Foshaw's head right now. But it's the mentality of a racing driver. It's very, very interesting to kind of think about, but a lot of decisions made in the moment, and ticking down to the final 20 minutes now, 7:04 p.m. in sim time, and it's getting very, very much decisively darker. George, you were talking about the skyline and the sunset earlier, but that sunset has by far disappeared, and the track currently being lit. There's a bit of residual light left, but looking at being lit by the headlights, and it looks like Shinov going slightly wide into T1 there, and that's going to allow Fushaw a little bit of a chance maybe to close a bit of the gap.
I mean, for sure, actually has a a much better lap time if you look at it than what Shinoff is doing. So even best laps are 2/10 quicker from for sure. Shinoff's last lap was almost 4/10 slower. Cody Pride has probably one of the quickest laps out here, almost a 2-minute flat coming out then from from Cody Pride. Here we get a little flash coming down. This is the pass, Cody Pride onto Leffer, and just going to send it up on the inside there. And that was an incredible overtake.
Yeah, Leffer not even contesting it, indicating to the side there and just letting Pride through. And you were on about lap times. You're absolutely correct. I mean, not just one of the fastest times on track at the moment, George. Cody Pride setting the fastest lap by almost a full second. I'm looking through it now. The other best laps was Jordan Fouchot with the 2:01.3 and the 2 minutes flat 0.3 of Cody Pride. Yes, an absolute second down. So it won't be long before Pride is on the back of the two front runners yet again, and it looks like Fouchot has, in fact, as you were saying, used that pace to kind of keep up. Looks like Shinov making a slight mistake going through 130 out on exit. The two will be side by side going through the Casio Triangle. It leaves just enough room for Shinov on the inside of the first part of the chicane, but gets through on the second side by side through the start finish line. Shinov will have the slightly better line on the inside going through the final curve, but side by side going through into T1, and who can make this stick?
Oh, I mean, that was incredibly close as well in the middle of that chicane for both of them to get through cleanly. And a quarter panel between them coming down. Late on the brakes because Jordan for sure sets himself up for the inside line through the S's. More ideal line. That's going to bully Shinov to sit behind as they go train formation through the snake. And a good bit of driving coming out from the number 11. All got planned up from the back stretch and shooting it away. And trying to catch them now with 26 seconds between themselves and the back end of that number 19 would be the likes of Cody Pride. So Cody Pride on the hunt, on the chase. Last lap coming out from Cody Pride is going to certainly indicate that they do have some pace to come. I don't know that it's going to be enough to catch them at this phase of the race. But if that number 11 and 19 get more busy together, then certainly going to be opportunities. Joe Gleason then going to go for a bit of a brave move then to go on the inside here of 130R and just going to have to brake a little bit too much, I feel, to be able to make that move on the number 420 of Van Aken. So not quite the place that Joe Gleason in that 742 is going to get that done, but certainly was carrying a lot more speed out of Spoon down the back stretch.
No, absolutely, a lot of potential there. And going back to the two front runners, George, we're on about Cody Pride having the pace to catch them, which they might have, but we haven't taken into consideration the fact that they may also have to pit the two front runners, because we just saw Cody Pride pit. Actually, seeing Shinov go very wide at 130R there, just about holding on to it. But I wonder if that's a sign that the tyres are maybe dropping off a little as well. But in terms of fuel, we've seen it before in this. That's Shinov going very wide onto the grass and spinning, making contact with the barrier of the start finish.
That's what Cody Pride will need exactly. We'll get a little onboard view of what happened here. Caught up to the grass, took a little bit. That car is understeering quite a lot as well. Just goes all the way from the inside to the outside of the exit of the last corner there. Catches it. But not without slamming it into a barrier. So that gap that we talked about to Cody Pride being big in third place has now been munched down into just 19.2 seconds is the last gap. So a few more mistakes like that from Shinov and certainly could catch up. You said it before. Do more of these GT3s have to pit here? I'm sure if you get into 15 minutes left of the race, you're hoping that your strategy is going to last you until the very end. But certainly going to be interesting to see if that's something that plays up, because I'm not even sure what Cody Pride's pit stop was about at this phase. I think it was about a 44 second stop in total. That counts kind of coming in and out of the pit box as well. So to me, just something to do with putting some fuel in, I would imagine. So maybe running on a bit of a more angry fuel map setting. and then throwing a bit of fuel in to get to the line. But certainly an interesting race this has been. Not one without controversy. I think the stewards have been kept rather busy from the start of this race. Well, not even the start. The start was great. Then we saw a bit of chaotic chaos coming down. And that's kept our stewards well busy since the start of the checkered flag.
Oh, absolutely, and as you said, it started off as a fairly clean race, but then quickly descended into chaos just a little bit, and unfortunately, that is racing sometimes, and anything can happen. Obviously, these guys are pushing the limits, they're very, very close to each other, and sadly, these incidents can happen. We don't want to see them, and it's incredibly frustrating from the driver's perspective, but it is part and parcel of the hobby we absolutely enjoy. So, yeah, absolutely. So Joe Gleason still on the back of Van Aken in the 420 Cayman.
And interesting enough, I mean, these two drivers are fighting it out in their championship division for silver in the GT4s. As far as my memory serves me, it's only 5 points that separate them out. And this is for first and second in the championship, as far as I can remember. I stand to be corrected, but in silver for the GT4s, Gleason and Van Aken are fighting it out to see who can get themselves up to the top before the final round. So any of these points, they'll love it. Both of them going very deep into the hairpin. Gleason almost following along, and I think just making space then for that cup car of Mikael Sundstrom to get through, and trying to be as non in the way as possible, as terrible as that sounds in my inability to form up an English sentence.
No, you're absolutely correct in what you were saying, by the way, in terms of championship standings. Gleason is currently in 7th place, Van Aken in 6th, so these guys are absolutely fighting for everything that they've got in terms of championship points. So Gleason will not be wanting to let Van Aken run away with that. As we see, I believe that's Banfield getting in between Baranowski and Andrew Pike. So another development in the fight for third place in the GT4 championships, and that will be Banfield just making their way through. And it seems to be that it's actually brought the two closer together. So are we going to start seeing a move from Baranowski on Pike? I think it's been a few laps in the making now. The guys definitely seem to have the pace on themselves as well, and this is a battle that is definitely drawn out.
It's building itself up to the final 10 minutes, almost 11:28 left on that race clock. Baranowski on the back end of Pike, sort of setting the tone of what we've seen in a lot of these GT4 battles. Drivers pushing it for the duration of, or the entire duration of the race, and now starting to realize that they need to turn it up a notch if they're going to find more points paying positions. Baranowski, oh no, a little bit too wide there. Oh no, a little bit too wide, and missing both apexes through Spoon. That's going to cost them out there. So another commentator's curse coming our way on a battle that has now had to be put on ice.
Absolutely. Is that Kingston Lee that we see behind there as well, in the 233? Because if that is another Cayman behind. Let's just double check on my own timing sheet. No, that is not Kingston Lee. I apologize. So the car behind Baranowski is not for position, it would seem. Not on the same lap. So Baranowski having to make back a lot of that ground to Pike, but didn't lose out on too much. Didn't lose out on too much time at all, and just that is Michael Redford. So I know Redford actually made quite an early stop. I believe that was due to damage. So, speaking of Redford, going a little bit wide into T1 there. And Gleason still chasing down actually, has he gotten by Van Aken? Oh, Vondra and Van Aken. Yes, he has. Gleason has gotten by Van Aken at some point. So, I see a replay of that now, and that's the race leader coming up behind. It looks like, yes, the 420 just goes wide and just allows the inside to not just Gleason, but the race leader as well. So, actually, no, that's not the race leader. That's Alexander Shinov, sorry, in second place. Should have spent a lot of time up front in this race. It has to be said as well. Is that the lead position has changed up so often, and all three cars have all the top three with Pride, Forshaw, and Chinov putting in an absolutely amazing show for everyone so far.
Jordan, for sure, what a drive so far. 9 minutes to the checkered flag for the number 11, and certainly putting up a big amount of space between themselves and that number 19. 3 seconds now, the gap between them. Cody Pride is eating into the gap to catch up to Shinov, so 16.2 seconds is that timing difference between the two. I wonder if Shinov's damaged car is going to cause any more chaos for them before the end of the race. I mean, just one more mistake with the damaged aero on that car could certainly see Pride being able to pounce at some point. Banfield has caught up to Macaulay finally in that leading cup car. That number 18 of Macaulay has just been flying around the circuit and almost playing hot lap simulator out there, not having too much to deal with now that they've just had a lot of clear air. And Macaulay certainly not in any sort of situation that they have to just give up that track position, as they are in an overall battle as well here. And it is up to the likes of Banfield to make a safe overtake onto Macaulay. Macaulay will obviously stick to their racing lines. They're as predictable as they would always. But it's up to Banfield to try and get around that traffic.
No, absolutely. And you just hit the nail right on the head there. And Banfield having to make just a legitimate overtake on Macaulay. If anything, though, it shows the pace of the cup cars as well. I mean, in Macaulay, they're only a couple of seconds a lap behind, so it's absolutely kind of very, very close in terms of it. Even though it's multi-class, the cup cars definitely seem to be very, very strong around here, as we see Van Aken as well, and seems to be that is Macaulay behind, I believe. So should see a little bit of a pass coming through there. It's on the start-finish line. Looked like Macaulay got pushed a little bit wide at first there, but don't think it's going to hinder too much.
Just a lot of traffic management was sort of the name of the race when we started things out, just saying, you know, you are going to be caught up in your own class, and then, of course, come across cars that are in their own sort of battles themselves. Hellman doing a good job here at catching up to P4 of Leffer. That 308 now within half a second's reach of the Pink Elephant Racing number 24. And the sunset does go down very late here. So for the entire duration of the race, we've had that lovely sunset in the in sort of the background as we go around. You also start to see the big Ferris wheel starting to light up here at Suzuka 2. So there we go, get a nice little shot of the nice lights on the Ferris wheel. And I'm a bit of an RGB fan myself. You know, if I can put as many lights on things as possible. I like lights. Oh no.
Oh no. One of those. No, RGB lights are very, very, very pretty.
They make your computer faster. That's what I like to tell myself when I buy the RGB lights.
It's worth another 35 FPS, clearly. But no, Hellman looking at, he's caught right up to the back of Olaf Leffer, and you saw earlier on, Leffer definitely had the pace on Hellman. Hellman did a great job keeping them behind. But seems to be the table, the turns have tabled, as the kids would say, coming down with Hellman looking at making a move into Spoot, actually. Going side by side. Oh, a little bit of a contact. Bounces Leffer into the infield. Hellman will slow up and let Leffer take the position, as probably they should. And that has also opened up to Stanchu as well. Stanchu started to try to take a look on the run down to 130 yards. There's a gap there, but is it going to go 3 wide? Not quite, but there's Leffer lost a bit of time there. Is Stanchu also going to get through? Hellman has
Leffer's trying to. Leffer must be. Oh
no! Oh no!
Oh no! I mean that almost looked like a little bit of netcode between the two of them. So I mean, Leffer very wide out of there. I almost thought maybe a little bit of fuel saving needing to be done there to get to the line, but a lot of slipstream effect coming down. And the flash of the lights coming through. They did try to almost make it 3 wide. Hellman has his shot first, and then coming down here. I just want to see, was there a little bit of a... Oh, no, that's netcode. That is
Yeah,
certainly
no,
netcode.
absolutely. They don't seem like they actually made contact. It just seems to be that, like, there's a good couple of inches between the two cars there, and it just unfortunately sends Leffler into the barriers. And that is not what you want to see. I know I say that a lot, but it's been said a lot this race. But that's a shame. That was shaping out to be a really great three-way battle.
I mean, that was a very brave place to go side by side, but I think we were robbed a little bit there with some netcode between the two cars. Certainly no contact from what we could see here from the heli cam. And, we'll leave it down to the stewards to have a look into that themselves. But from what we could see in our limited view from the box, and of course the beautiful cameras being provided by Jake Coombs, I would have just said a little bit of netcode went down into play there. But it has not taken the heat off of the likes of Haleman and Stanciel. The two of them now will be fighting it out to the line. 3 minutes 30 left on the clock. So we will be crowning our race victors very shortly. And of course, for these drivers, just trying to scoop up as many points as possible.
No, absolutely. And one driver who's done absolutely amazing, you're looking at him, Fouchard, has done pretty great, starting from, I believe it was P2, just ahead of Cody Pride. Obviously, Pride made the move very, very early on for the lead, spun out, and then made the pit stop. And it seems to be that they are going to the end on a single tank, which, I'm going to be honest, George, I didn't even realize that was possible. It looks like Hellman going defensive against Anshu, going into the Casio Triangle. Again, how many times have we seen this side by side going down the start finish, getting so close again? No netcode this time, though. So it seems to be Heilman is just about going to hold on just a little bit. I think that was a really, really smart move, if I'm correct, just kind of trying to pin Stanshu against the GT4 to leave him no room to kind of pull out. And seems to have kind of worked, but it's going to give the inside to Stanshu going down into T2 towards the S. Is still somewhat side by side, but Stanshu will get the move done. Very, very, very deep on the brakes. Very brave making that one stick.
Beautiful bit of driving coming out from the Red Line Motorsport 191, and Eilman will be a little bit sad to know that so much defense has been done in this race, and as the time ticks down, not enough to hold off all the way to the very end for Naken and Gleason. That's not done and dusted just yet. 3/10 is the latest timing sheet update. A nice line coming out from that cheeky 420, coming into the first Degner, and having an equally good exit coming through. Heilman hanging on to the back end of Stancio as well, trying to get P4 back here in the Pink Elephant Racing number 24. Also a team name that I can just appreciate. Very Triple R-like colors, but certainly not a Triple R team coming through. The Pink Elephant Racing name, just working out the beautiful pink rims too. Big fan of the paint job on that, and you can quote me on it. I've said it before. I like the Triple R liveries, so I like the Pink Elephant livery, and that is not what I like to see. A very big spoon being pulled out.
No, absolutely, and some absolutely epic moves that we've seen so far. And now I think in terms of liveries, you touched on it a little bit there, George. I mean, yeah, the Triple R colours, the bubblegum pink and blue. I mean, you definitely can't... Oh, that's Cody Pride off. That's T1, T2, right? So, yeah, I wonder what happened here. Did Cody Pride just kind of lose it? Just seems to be run a little bit wide. Ooh. Yeah, the car snaps and compensates just a little too much. Oh no! Oh no! Bit of a tank slapper, and just kind of isn't able to hold on to it. So, I mean, it hasn't cost him too much. I mean, with 30 seconds of the race left to go, I don't think he was going to catch up with Shinov realistically. And still 30 seconds to go to the back of Stanciu, I believe. I just saw flash up on the score on the timing sheet there. So he's in a bit of a gap in clear air by himself. So it seems to be that Cody isn't going to be too affected by the spin. Might have to settle for P3 though. But that's a very, very rare mistake we see from Pride.
Especially with the pace that was coming out. Pride had a great race up until that point. And, it's not often you have to say settle for P3. It's not often I ever even get the chance to be in P3. So certainly we'll be enjoying that. This is Banfield going on the move here. on the inside, as I think we kind of said that there must be some kind of fuel saving taking place on the likes of Leffer in that 308. So we'll drop them down. Adam Banfield up into P6 then, as the timing sheet will update it. But Jordan for sure taking home the victory then off camera, as we saw that, takes home P1 as Shinov over the line then in that number 19. The Desperate Measures number 19, Alexander Shinov, taking home second place in the GT3 series. And then we should have a race victory coming out for Joe McCauley here in the number 18. Blame Mike Jones flavored car. And of course, Joe just giving a little bit of stick to our, I guess I have to call him my captain at this point, old Mike Jones. I can say old, and he's not actually old, so he's not here to shout at me either, so I can say what I like. Hashtag blame Mike Jones.
Just when the boss ain't listening, right? But no.
And the sad thing is he's always listening, so I'll get rung around the ear when the stream is done. But up until that time, I've got like 20 seconds ahead of the live stream to get out of here before he hears me. So Andy Boardman, the race leading GT4, also just had a very determined drive out here to make sure that the number 69 can get on top. And a good drive coming out from the Greased Weasel Racing team. I said at the start, I like the name. I think I should pick race winners based on name. And Joe McCauley then over the line takes home the victory in the Cup Car class. James Parker should wrap up and come in on.
You okay there, George?
In second place then in the 888. Tongue twisters with words that have two letters. That's the name of the game for me. So the Coach Dave Academy 888 comes over the line in second place, and we'll track over to that number 69 then for Andy Boardman, who will cross the line. He actually got a little bit ahead of the rest of his class there, and will actually come home for an additional lap to come home in P1. So is he going to give us a celebratory flash of lights? He's not, so he will. So Andy Boardman first, Charisma taking home second, and Pike in at third place then for the GT4s.
No, absolutely, and what a race! There just hasn't been a moment to sort of stop and breathe, really. I mean, we've laughed, we've cried, we've got we've definitely owned more than our fair share. I think the chat has owned with us many a time, and looking at the standings now, it's been an amazing race.
Certainly has been an amazing race. There we see the entire GT3 roundup for sure, taking up first, Shinov second, Pride third, Stanchio fourth, Haleman in fifth, Banfield takes home sixth, Leffer in seventh, Vita eighth, Seredi ninth and 10th. They didn't finish up there, Vita, Seredi and Knight. So for them, a little bit of a sad race here in Japan, but you know, maybe they can make something up at Silverstone next week. At our Cup Car class, McCauley takes home P1, Parker in second, Gogo Panker up on the podium, then getting himself a P3 finish in the Cup Cars. Guglia getting home in fourth place, Sandstrom fifth, Helicalio sixth, Ryan Meenan seventh, and Mike. Actually, did only 3 Cup Cars actually finish that entire race?
Wait, what?
Am I missing out on? I don't know. Maybe I can't read the timing sheet properly. Guglia, Sandstrom, Helicalio, Ryan Meenan, and Noble in the order there that finished up there. So then looking at the GT4s, Boardman takes home first, Charisma in second, Pike third, Baranowski in fourth, Kingston Lee fifth, Gleason sixth, Van Aken seventh, Fondra eighth, 9th for Jacobson, Redford in 10th, and Webb in 11th. I think they all did actually finish. I think I just can't read timing sheets properly, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure that we saw Sundstrom finish, but I might be mistaken. But
yeah, I think we did. I think 6 finished it up in the Cup Car class. I think I was just. It's been a long weekend and a long Monday, so. You know, forgive me where I am, but you know what this means, Josh, don't you?
I do.
means that it is time for us to wrap up the Or Nor Porsche's Cup Masters Round 4. A big thank you to all our loyal viewers and supporters for coming out and enjoying the racing with us. It was a great evening of racing at Suzuka. I know there was a couple of incidents out there that weren't great to always see, but we will be back again